Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Aussie Clone Wars review, where we have a look at some of the collection that we've got here. Primarily, we're looking at the Clone Wars collection and the Hasbro lines, which for me was a personal favourite as I was growing up. It was being released as I was coming through my teens between that 2008 to 2010 period, and in my opinion, there was no other greater show. Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, all those shows couldn't compete with the Clone Wars, particularly if you're a big Star Wars nerd like myself. That type of show just had all the continuity, had all the things from chronology, all those things like that, where they just included all these extra little bits that added to the movies, the TV shows. But they started off as a PG series, and later as they got further on, probably could have been an M for the most part of some of them. But a children's TV show, which turned out to become more of a serious adult cartoon show, and really added to the value of Star Wars. I commentated on it every single time. Disney, when they purchased Star Wars, were absolute fools to get rid of it. Absolute fools. Clearly an indication of people who didn't know specifically what they were buying or didn't understand their audience. But I digress. I say that every time, and I'll make that known for the rest of my life. Today, as we've promised, we're going to be having a look at the Mandalorians that were released as part of these lines. I know they're commonly referred to as the Death Watch. That's the faction that the Clone Wars looked at. But it's well known throughout the other sources that there were other factions just like the Death Watch, which occurred within the Star Wars universe and on Mandalore. But the one that was focused on in the TV series, or at least created for the TV series, was the Death Watch. They appeared at the start in Season 2, I believe. Well, there was at least reference to them in the Mandalore plot. That's where they get their origins there in the TV show. Their leader is, of course, the famous Pre Vizsla, who is one of the members of the House of Vizsla or Clan Vizsla. These packs all came out within the 2010 range, the only exception being the Assault Pack, which came out in 2011. It was part of the last line of vehicles that came out for the Clone Wars. All the figures we're going to have today are exclusively from the Star Wars Hasbro line. There's no vintage collection figures. I know there was a Pre Vizsla released recently on vintage collection. We're not going to have any of those because they're not true Clone Wars stuff. We can see in the background here, we've got a lot of the loose figures that we have. There's plenty more over here, but these are the ones that were just posed and ready to go. There's two types of variants. They come in the same pack, but you can create two different variants. The first one is just your basic one. Now these ones, they don't have the wrist launchers. Well, they're supposed to be launchers, but they don't really projectile. It's just the standard guns. We can still see we've got the original bands that they came in here. A lot of those fall apart over time. This one seems to have stayed together. Basic design, very articulated. Beautiful color scheme. Why this blue here on the chest is a bit different, I'm not sure. But it's well known that the holsters on these figures don't fit the guns. You have a lot of issues fitting them in. The jetpacks are known to fall off, so you've got to pose them really well. But when it comes to posing them, geez, that becomes an issue as well. The other variant you can make, mark this guy's wide legs, is the one that has the wrist gauntlets on. You can see here. Oop, not having a great time of focus here. You can see them there. They're not projectiles, but you can see in the show they use them such as flamethrowers. They fire little spike pistols. This one's also got the projectile backpack, which I don't believe comes in the single pack, not at that color. I know it's a darker projectile. I believe this is one of the ones from the 4-pack out the back. They're the two real variants that you can get, but they're the in-house made variants. Man, Focus is having a terrible day today. We've got another one here where we've managed to get the guns into the holsters. Again, Focus, what's going on? It is tedious to get them in, let me tell you. It's absolutely painful when it takes what should take 15 to 20 minutes for about 10 figures. Can take up to an hour. It's honestly very painful. But they're beautiful. Beautiful designs here. Very sleek. The color scheme works very well. The helmets, fantastic texture. Now these figures, the 4-pack, as we look in the back here, these where I grew up were about $25 each. And again, I say it every time, where I grew up, I was the only person buying them, so I got about 8. Saved up a lot of pocket money and a little bit of chore money. Just went down to the shop one week and said, mate, I'm going to get all these. And I took them all home and I've still got them. I've sold There's at least 2 that are in almost mint condition. They got sold maybe 2 or 3 years ago for a few hundred each. But I've kept as many as I can. Their value just skyrockets. Every year that goes past, we're adding $50 to $100 on top of them. They just continually, they retain their value. They're such a beautiful design. We'll bring the one off the top here to have a look. It's of course the Mandalorian Battle Pack. See, we've all got the 4 in there. Beautiful, beautiful color. Comes with a jetpack. Now these ones have still got the bands going okay. I can see in this one the bands are doing well. The bands on this one in the middle, which has got the gauntlets, is doing well. And the bands on the one on the edge also doing well. So this box is holding up quite well. They're a little bit loose inside as we go have a look at the back. Again, Hasbro figures had some of the best artworks, particularly on the back here. We have a look at this one. Just beautiful color. Just everything seems to work. It's a dark series. Shadow of the Dark Skies, I believe, was the pack series. We have a look there. Just beautiful. You can see the ARC Troopers battle pack at the bottom here. We've done a video on them. There's a, looks like a Hoth battle pack here. We don't have that. These generally went for about $25, and now, of course, if you wish to get a return on your investment, you're gonna do very well. We'll go to the last single figure. The loose one that we have is, of course, the Pre Vizsla. Beautiful, sleek design. He's got the cloth goods being the cape. All blacked out design. The logos and emblems on the shoulder. He's got the Mandalorian symbols on the helmet. His helmet does come off. Be very gentle here. And you can see the head sculpt there. It looks identical to how he does in the show. They've done a great job. The exclusive Darksaber, which is now getting a run in the Mandalorian TV series, which we can all agree is not as good as the Clone Wars. I believe it's Moff Gideon that hunts after that. That made its first appearance in the Clone Wars TV series with Pre Vizsla, who's of course later challenged by Darth Maul and since loses it. This figure itself can go anywhere between $70 to $100. This is quite an exclusive figure. It's a must-have in any collection, and on top of all those things, just looks beautiful. If we were to make a video of our top 10 most beautiful looking figures, I guarantee Pre Vizsla's figure will show up in here. Another one which wasn't seen too much in the show but got good advertising was the Mandalorian on the speeder bike. He's also got an all dark armor, which I don't believe was the case in the show, but they had to make him a little bit different. He also comes with a jetpack, despite the fact that he's already pretty much flying. He's got the loose hips. His guns do fit into his pockets. And the speeder itself, very unique. It's got the cable for dragging whatever you wish to drag. Its extensions do come out to help you pose it, so it stays off the ground. I'll bring it back like that so you can see, and sits like that. You'll find there's a lot of people, they forget that that's there, and as they pose it, you bring that up, they put their figure down like that. You leave your figure like that in the heat, say you have a hot couple of weeks and you don't put aircon in your room, you'll find that these flaps here will actually start to bend and they're going to look like dolphin flippers, so you don't want that. Make sure you put it up, get it right on the tips, just there, and you'll avoid all that altogether. This figure, of course, came in a speeder pack, which is consistently being increasing in value. We've got one of those over here. We'll bring that in. The one that I've got here, unfortunately, is yellowing. It's not a great example. There are others out the back there. But unfortunately, this one's got a little bit of fade in the paint design here. I think this one spent a bit of time in the sun and a lot of time in air. You'll see that when they start to get air gaps in their packaging here, it's when the air gets in and starts to do a bit of damage. Not to the figures themselves, but just to the plastic. It's where the yellowing comes in. Other figures like Clone Troopers that have the all-white armor start to see a bit of yellowing from the same thing. It's just oxidization, basic science. Again, we got some fading there. So this is one of the ones that's not in as great condition. But the integrity on the inside, you can see all the bands are still together there. There's a few little markings and so on, but everything inside is still absolutely perfect. Artwork not as great on these ones. It's just a simple one. But you can see the nice blue and everything there. This lets you know about a Cad Bane pack, which we have, and the Kenobi one, which we have as well. That Mandalorian Speeder pack, that came out about 2010 as well, around the same time as the Mandalorian Warriors and the Pre-Vizsla. They were all quite a collection to have. I didn't see the Mandalorian Speeder anywhere except maybe a Toys R Us that they had in Canberra. I could not find that anywhere. But the one thing I did make sure to get and get a lot of was the Mandalorian Warrior in the single pack. When I saw this in the shops, I thought it was an absolutely beautiful design. And I say that particularly when we look at the artwork on the top. Now, I don't want to take these out of the case. This one, unfortunately, has got a bit of damage to the corner there. I'm not happy about that. I think one of my relatives might have knocked this over. But this figure here, beautiful. Not to say this one's in mint condition. We do have a second one that's in a lot better condition. This one here was a beautiful design. It was just the original figure itself, keeping it in good condition there. As we turn it over, another beautiful artwork design there. These ones themselves are not staying cheap. The Death Watch figure can set you back anywhere between $50 to $150 depending on the seller. They're not easy to come across, not in good condition either. I say that speaking for Australia. In America you can get some better ones. For a little bit of bonus trivia, to the best of my memory, I believe that there was a pack where the Pre-Vizsla came in, and at the bottom it had all the mail away exclusives. So on this Pre-Vizsla, when you brought him in the box, at the bottom I believe there was a ticket that you could sign that would get you the mail order exclusive, which I think was Sergeant Brick from the Rookies or the Defending Camino arc. On top of that, there was like a $5 cashback, which you could use when you were buying Hasbro figures. I don't think anyone knew about that at the time. And you could just build all those and get all these figures and then get $5 off your next purchase when you bought from Hasbro. So that battle pack, if you come across a Pre-Vizsla battle pack, it doesn't even have to be in the best condition, because sometimes its contents include some of the best stuff. And that's, Pre-Vizsla itself is quite a valuable figure. But if he wasn't, for example, it has those exclusives in there which make it a little bit more valuable. They have no value now, of course. You can't cash them in to use them. But you had that at the time. And so you were getting a figure for $15 that gave you the opportunity to order an exclusive mail-away figure and then a extra $5 off your purchase. So that figure's value was, extremely valuable at the time in terms of what you could get from it. You'd get a great Pre-Vizsla figure, and then you'd get money off and exclusives to other figures as well. So I made sure to pick up at least two. I believe one's sitting in a box somewhere, and the other one's in its clear container. But of course, Pre-Vizsla here. The one we haven't spoken about is the Mandalorian Transport over here. We've only got the one here, and he's in the box. He's not coming out. We'll let you have a little gaze at him there. For those of you that missed out on getting them, there's not too many getting around, not in Australia anyway. They were a bit rare, and those that did get them got them out and obviously got rid of the box straight away. But there you have it. That's not our entire Clone Wars Mandalorian collection, but these are the ones that form part of it. Obviously, we've got the single pack Mandalorian figure, all the loose Mandalorian figures here, the Pre-Vizsla, the Mandalorian Warriors 4-pack, the Mandalorian Assault Transport, and the Mandalorian Speeder Bike. That's what your Mandalorian collection has to consist of. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 different pieces there that you need to have for your collection. They're all must-haves. The hardest one for you to get is probably going to be the battle pack at the back, the 4-man battle pack, probably followed by the assault tank or the assault transport here on the side here. Then you're looking at the speeder bike above it, and then you'll be looking at the Mandalorian Warriors themselves, and of course Pre-Vizsla, who's not relatively too difficult to get loose, but if you try and get him loose, you've got to get all the accessories, which they generally don't have. So we'll leave it for there for now. This has just been a review of some of our Mandalorian figures from the Clone Wars collection. The next episode, we might be looking at all the Jedi in the series that were released. Following that, we might be looking at all the Sith Lords and all the the dark characters. We've also got an idea going for the bounty hunters. We've still got the 2/12th clone trooper units to use. They're going to be looked at as well. And then going down from there, we'll probably do every single unit of the clones that we have here. There's many different variants of the Senate or Coruscant Guard clones, which we'll have a look at those, which includes some of the rare Riot Troopers. We're going to do a rarest top 10. I know we did the most valuable one, but then we're going to look at the most rarest ones, which are very different. Some figures can be extremely rare, but not that valuable, even though there's not many of them. Geonosians are a great example of that. There's not many Geonosians being retained by any collectors anywhere. They're very difficult to find on eBay, and when you find one, they're $20. It's extremely rare, but not extremely valuable, so there is a difference. So that's been our review today. We hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've taken something away. Hope you've been able to identify something that you go, I haven't got that, I haven't considered that. And it's allowed you to rebuild your collection.